Biden and Harris. The Labor Community Alliance of South Florida is a coalition of diverse peoples from diverse backgrounds and professions, united to defend our democracy and a decent standard of living. Among other things, the LCA is involved in the struggle for Medicare for all, building a united front against fascism, climate justice, transit, and the rights of all immigrants. And we're here tonight to hold a conversation about the crisis we're in and how to find a way out. You'll hear from leaders in South Florida's progressive community, your peers, your fellow activists, and your friends about why it's our belief that voting for Biden and Harris and encouraging others to do the same is the only way we can begin to heal the wounds of the past 4 years. I just want to mention our co-sponsors before we get started. The AFSCME Local 393, Miami-Dade Blue Wave Coalition, South Florida Progressive Bulletin, Democratic Progressive Caucus of Broward, and Fred Frost, the former president of South Florida Central Labor Council, AFL-CIO. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker. An organizer and activist, Laurie Woodward-Garcia has been on the front lines of Florida's most pressing issues and is a champion for social, racial, economic, and environmental justice. Her many accomplishments have been recognized and rewarded by national organizations including Move On, Indivisible, United We Dream, Daily KOs, Public Citizen, MGAGE, Florida Immigrant Coalition, Friends of Miami-Dade Detainees, and the Center for Popular Democracy. Laurie mobilizes our community as an organizer and is the originator and current co-leader of Broward for Progress. So let's welcome my hero and my friend, Laurie Woodward-Garcia.
Oh, thank you. Nothing like being in the hot seat and being number one. I was like, please don't pick me. Please don't pick me. But first of all, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be here among such heroes of mine. I look at these faces, and these are the folks on the front lines in Florida. And I think as a progressive, my heart is with each of you, because we fight not only the far right and all that craziness going on, but sometimes we fight in our own party to kind of move things maybe a little further left. And sometimes that fight is even harder than the other side. So I appreciate all of you, because I know that many of you are fighting that good fight. So for folks that don't know me, I come to this space as a pissed off mom. I saw in my community, like many others, what was happening prior to the 2016 election, so much so that it literally threw me out of the house and I started volunteering. And when Donald Trump took office, I said to my family, what are we going to do? This is really serious. And we made an agreement, the three of us, because I tell people when I go out, this isn't about me, this is about our family. So it's really, you see on one side of me, my daughter and my husband. Team Garcia is showing up to help our community whatever way we can. I've been very blessed to be able to organize and have great people around me, my co-leaders, Anna, co-leader Jamie, and other folks that have shown up time and time again. And what I've learned through this process is it just takes good people with good heart. And so I am grateful that has taken me to places like fighting for immigrant justice or whatever it is. We believe that to mobilize voters like what we're doing now, we have to fight on their issues. We can't just show up every 4 years and ask for a vote. So our organization helps to mobilize voters, but we also talk to folks about progressive issues, just like all of you, healthcare, immigration, the environment, all of these issues we're speaking about on a regular basis and building a relationship. We just don't want to keep coming around every 4 years for a vote. That being said, this is, I got to be honest with you, Joe Biden was never going to be my first choice. He was on the far side of progressive values for me, but there is no way in hell that I'm going to step back and not support him as a president. Because to me, I look at when I'm going to the ballot box, when I am showing up to vote for somebody, I look at a couple things. Number one, integrity. There is no question Joe Biden has 1,000 times more integrity than Donald Trump. I look at somebody who is going to listen. You know, I was very frustrated. We had a team meeting on Wednesday with Senator Rubio's staff. I don't feel like our senator and leaders right now are listening to us. And I know that Joe Biden may not agree with my progressive values, but I know he's going to be respectful and be willing to listen to us. And that says something to me as well. So character, being willing to listen, and also admitting his mistakes. You know, I, as an immigrant activist, was very frustrated that I feel like sometimes many of the problems that we have is because of what happened during the previous administration. I mean, people called Obama the deporter in chief for a reason. Not to say that it's all his fault, but there are things that I feel as an activist that I wish had been done differently. That being said, I do see that Joe Biden is willing to listen and move forward. And he has spoken, he has been on the front lines and been willing to speak out on some of these issues and admit that I'm open for change. Just like with healthcare, right? We have a lot of problems in this country, a lot of division. But I think the biggest problem that we have is we're not willing to listen and talk to one another. And so I don't think that right now the Republican nominee is going to listen or hold our values. I have more hope in somebody like Vice President Biden because I believe that he is willing to listen and he's a man of integrity. But also I come to this place as a mom. And I think that in the future, I want my daughter to have reproductive justice. I want her to be able to make decisions about her body. I want her to be able to love who she wants, whether it's a man or a woman. I want her to have her voice and not be afraid. And so there is no choice whatsoever. That person that will allow my daughter to have that future is Joe Biden. And he may not be as far left, and I may not get the new Green Deal and Medicare for all on day one, but you better believe that he's going to open his arms to progressives and listen to us and be willing to have a conversation with us. And that's far more than what we're getting right now. So it's an easy choice. And then to my progressive friends out there that are still like, it wasn't Bernie, I'm out. I'm just going to ask you to please really think about it. This is all of our futures. Like, we're literally fighting for our lives. We're fighting for our lives. And not only that, but we have to move beyond. I believe these are, I see the hand going up. Is that my time? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll close. Okay, I wasn't sure. I just want to close and say that, you know, I get there's a lot of brokenness in this country, and it wasn't before Donald Trump. We have so many mistakes in this country. We've got to get to work. And I believe Joe Biden is the man that can take us there. We can get to work on many reforms. And that is why I support Joe Biden for the next president of the United States. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Laurie. That was very compelling. And we appreciate that. Thank you. I'll introduce our next speaker is Nucleus Shelton. He's a graduate of Nova Southeastern University, a community leader who can always be found leading the March of Social Justice and Quality of Life for everyone here in South Florida. And Nucleus currently serves as the AFL-CIO Community Services Liaison Manager at United Way of Miami-Dade. I give you Nucleus Shelton.
Blessings. Thank you for the introduction, and welcome you all this evening for this discussion. So originally when I was thinking about, you know, what to talk to progressives about, and our top choice of candidates, we can definitely say, weren't necessarily those chosen by the greater public, though the outcome of that definitely shifted the national conversation. And it allowed us to really rethink some systemic issues in this country. So the progressive wing, we had a win, right? So now what we're on, the neoliberal state, right? Trump is a manifestation of executing the goals of creating unregulated flows of capital, right? So this can be done by slashing health benefits. This can be done by putting downward pressure on wages. Workers are a piece and a pawn, right? And if progressives don't wake up and understand that the inner workings of a crypto fascism are upon us, we are really in for some really tough times. In terms of this administration, we've seen the constant attack on workers, right? We've seen this administration try to privatize the Postal Service. We've seen this administration come after workers' pensions that they worked for their entire life, right? And we know that in order to push back against this, we need to have an administration who is pro-worker, who understands the value of collective action and stands with workers who are collectively bargaining, right? So this president has admitted that if the PRO Act, which is House Resolution 2474, was passed by the Senate, he would immediately veto it, right? The PRO Act is one of the most strongest labor reform laws in modern history, right? So it amends the National Labor Relations Act, and it imposed strict penalties on employers that drag their feet on recognizing a first union contract, right? And it makes it illegal for them to hire replacement workers for workers who engage in collective action. And this president and Senate leadership have vowed to not move that agenda, which is completely like mind-blowing, right? So needless to say, there's a moral imperative in this election. The future is at stake. The current climate crisis like speaks volumes to how we need to act. And progressive, we need to build a broad coalition, right? We need to understand that though our candidates didn't make it as the presidential nominee, but as we're able to really shift the conversation, as Laurie just mentioned, we can get across this finish line. And I really wanted to thank LCA for putting on this important forum. This is a great discussion, and 19 days to go. And I just want to say thank you all for your ears, and thank you, Jamie.
My pleasure. Hey, before we go any further, I just want to thank you, Nucleus. That was awesome. And I wanted to introduce myself because maybe not everybody here knows me. My name is Jamie Friend, and I am the current president of the Democratic Progressive Caucus. But I believe, like Bernie's told us, we need to work inside and outside of the party. So I also sit on the board of Our Revolution and the PDA chapter in Broward. I also started and chair an organization called Citizens Audit of Broward, and we are determined to provide citizens oversight of our elections and either verify or reject the election results prior to certification. So we are looking for volunteers for early voting and election day. I just wanted to throw this in there, a little plug. And I'm giving my vote to Jack Lieberman. So I'm voting for Biden. All right, so thank you, and we'll move on. Thank you for your patience. Lorenzo Canizares spent 40 years as a community organizer with labor unions throughout the Northeast, his last 12 with the Pennsylvania State Education Association. He returned to Miami in 2013 and quickly became facilitator for Awake Miami. Mr. Canizares is currently a member of the editorial board of the South Florida Progressive Bulletin, manages several Facebook pages, and serves as co-coordinator of today's host, the Labor Community Alliance of South Florida. Let's welcome tonight's host and my friend, Lorenzo Canizares. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Let me add to that because it's pertinent to the topic, and I was my bad for not putting it in the bio, is that my college degree is in Eastern European history. And why is that important? Because I dealt with Germany in the 1930s, from at the end of the First World War to the end of the Second World War. And what I am trying to convey to you all tonight is the similarities between what happened there and what's happening here now. And it's really important to keep that in mind. I'm glad that you mentioned Jack Lieberman, because Jack Lieberman would have been here sitting with us, also defending the position that we're defending. He was a strong proponent of the need to be able to defeat Trump. One of the groups that we were at one time was the United Front Against Trump, and we needed to do that and put that in front. I deeply believe that we need to borrow a page from what Bernie Sanders has been doing. and not only support Joe Biden's candidacy, but to make sure that we are playing a leading role in making it happen, his electoral victory. As we know, many prominent leftists have endorsed the Biden campaign and are encouraging the rest of the progressive movement to take active participation in the Biden campaign. I would like to cite two quotes that will help us understand what other prominent left-wing leaders are saying and the urgency that they are conveying with their message. Reverend Cornel West, professor of philosophy at Harvard's Divinity School, who nobody can accuse of being soft on establishment Democrats, says, "I vote for Biden is a way of preserving the conditions for the possibility of any kind of democratic practice in the United States. We could very easily blow our democracy if we don't win this election." In a twist last month, Naomi Klein, the lady that gave us the disaster capitalism, said this in support of Biden: "Vote for a more affordable terrain. Our struggle goes way beyond elections. We are in the streets. We are talking to our neighbors and co-workers, but who controls the presidency changes what's politically possible for our struggles." These comments should suffice to provide a context to what I'm trying to say here. My point is simple. Trump personifies the marriage of greed addiction and white supremacy. Greed addiction and white supremacy, a very dangerous combo, the kind of marriage that brought Hitler to power and sustained the Nazis. Greed addiction leads to a squashing the middle class and the labor unions. White supremacists like those composing QAnon, Proud Boys, Free Percenters, the Michigan militias are the enforcers of the greed machine. It is important to remember that Hitler came to power not through a revolution. He came to power through his leadership in a political party, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, better known as the Nazis. The Nazis were anti-Marxist, fiercely opposed the weak social democratic Weimar Republic, which advocated extreme nationalism and virulent anti-Semitism. The Nazis advocated extreme nationalism. And they were prone to violence. Weak conservative players in Germany at the time tried to appease them. These components that brought the Nazis to power are very much alive in today's American reality with Trump. Just substitute anti-Semitism with hatred towards black and we are even. If Trump gets reelected, it will be very difficult for progressives to be able to organize. Trump will probably follow the lessons learned through Nazi Germany and take out quickly the most prominent and dedicated progressive. Many of us might not be here, who needs obstacles in their way to fascism. Plus, his denial of climate change is going to inflict severe pain on those areas of the nation that will be affected, and some of those obstacles can mysteriously disappear thanks to climate change. With what we are seeing regarding the Supreme Court and the judicial appointments should give us an indication that the rule of law in the United States is in life support. It is in the process of becoming a partisan club. We should know by now that Trump and his team have no scruples whatsoever. The COVID mishap wasn't so much mishandling the pandemic as willful negligence that has allowed people that Trump has wanted to get rid of to do the dying. The elderly, the blacks, the Hispanics, the Native Americans, using the pandemic for ethnic cleansing and elderly riddance. As we are seeing, Trump is preparing to destroy Social Security and Medicare. That will turn millions of Americans into dire poverty. It will be a festive day in hell if progressives just sit by and allow this to happen. We are also witnessing how Trump and many in the Republican Party has come together to escalate voter suppression. Blacks and their allies can be allowed to another opportunity to determine the direction of the nation. The quest for white supremacy is out in the open, and the good old boys are ready to enforce it. To conclude, now that we have an opportunity to get rid of Trump, is in a somewhat peaceful setting, it will be really irresponsible not to take advantage of this opportunity and get Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to Washington, D.C. Let's first get rid of the existential threat posed by Trump and then kick the behind of those that open the door to the existential threat. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Lorenzo. Very good. That was awesome. All right, so our next speaker is Nancy Metayer. She is a South Florida native and a recipient of the Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship. She earned her Bachelor of Science from Florida Agriculture and Mechanical University and her Master's from Johns Hopkins University Bloomberg School of Public Health. Nancy currently serves on the Broward County Commission on the Status of Women, the City of Coral Springs Neighborhood Environmental Committee, and the Customer Involved Government Committee. She is a passionate, skilled, and qualified leader of the future. I introduce to you candidate for Coral Springs Commissioner, Nancy Metayer.
Hi, everyone. First and foremost, it feels like I am home with family. You all are speaking to the tunes that beat my drum, and all the work that all the things and all that I do to work so hard to ensure that my community is centered, is heard, and is empowered. So to Lorenzo, and to Laurie and to Nucleus for starting off this conversation with all of your insight and really providing a sense of why progressives need to vote for Biden. I am voting for Biden and encouraging you all to vote for Biden because I'm a Black woman. I am a child of immigrants. I am someone who one day, if I decide to have children, will want to have Black babies or will have Black babies. And I want to ensure that their lives are valued. I want to ensure that as a Black woman that I can sleep in my bedroom, and if something were to happen or someone would enter my home, that justice would be served. I am also someone who is fighting for the environment and want to ensure that our future generations will not be taken back or take on the struggles of the wrongdoings and the lack of knowledge around science because we didn't advocate for it. Again, try counting your money while holding your breath. That is a saying that I like to say a lot because we are continuing to put our profits before people, before the environment. And as many have said, all of these issues matter because they intersect with each other. We can't build on a just labor community if we don't center environmental or renewable energies and transition to a just economy. We can't fight for reproductive justice if our water isn't clean, our air isn't clean, because guess what? That fetus will come into this world, or they're inhaling in their mother's bodies all those toxins, and then it becomes an issue when they get here, right? And then we can't say that everyone here has a voice and not hear our Native brothers and sisters when they say keep our sovereign lands protected and ensuring that we meet the treaties that were put in place to respect those lands. So I'm voting for Biden because he centers these issues, right? He's had these tough conversations in these town halls around what it means to build a just economy. And that means centering renewable energy, transitioning to ensuring that he undoes everything that the Trump administration has done when it comes to laxing legislation around water policies and clean air policies, things that we know that we need to ensure a vibrant community for all of us. When we talk about reproductive justice rights, that's something I care deeply about because I don't want the government telling me what I can do with my body. Because at the end of the day, when that child comes into this world, we continue to suppress them and not give them their access to tools and resources for them to thrive. And so I'm encouraging everyone who's listening this evening that you're not just voting for yourself. You're voting for people who can't vote. Think about the 1.5 million individuals who we voted to restore their rights to vote, and they have to face a poll tax. You're voting for them. You're voting for our future generations. You're voting for Black and brown children who are demanding police accountability and reform and criminal justice reform throughout this country. You're voting for clean water. You're voting for the people in Flint, Michigan right now who are still paying a water bill and can't drink or use the water that's coming out of their faucet. You're voting because you want to fight for the souls of this democracy. Because right now, we have very little left of it, because we have someone at the White House right now with no integrity, someone who doesn't respect women, and someone who doesn't respect different perspectives, because everything is fake news and the science is a hoax. So today, I end with this. If nothing pushes you to the polls, if nothing makes you want to march on the streets and push for BLM, for the BLM movement, understand that there is a whole lot of people who sacrifice so much for us to vote. And 2020 is the most important election of our lifetime.
All right, thank you, Nancy. That was very inspiring. Our next speaker is Gabe Agnetti. He's a longtime activist as far back as the anti-Vietnam War movement. He was a member of the Students for Democratic Society and the Teachers Union. Gabe was elected Vice President at Large for the Central Labor Council of the U.S. Virgin Islands, and he served on the board of the Miami-Dade Green Party. He is presently a board member of 350 South Florida. So take it away, Gabe.
Brothers and sisters, I'd like to thank you for having me on. And we're all brothers and sisters. I keep reminding you folks of that all the time. We need to have that family, that thing that Jack nurtured so well. And it's an imperative that we be family. And we have to understand, too, this, because only brothers and sisters can be brutally frank and yet keep that love going. And it is exactly the hardest question that requires butt-naked frankness is the ones that we need to be discussing the most, because without doing that, we'll end up being shallow and impotent as a movement. And that brings me to the question of third-party politics, which is the most divisive issue of all. And for me, the choice is easy. And so on behalf of 350 Battle who I'm speaking for, letting you know that we all endorse Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And by the way, Greta Thunberg has also endorsed Biden as well. And there are unfortunately a lot of young people who don't see it that way and will either stay home or simply vote against their major parties in protest. And often too much I hear this conversation about third-party voting revolving around the presumption that the major political parties being a dead end. And they're right. But it's worse than that. The entire electoral system is rigged against us. We know that. It's designed to be an endless maze, and we're like rats running around through it. But the good news is that while electoral politics is the art of the possible, it is movement politics that defines what is possible. And I look at election day as being a lot like payday. It's the day where we cash in on all the hard work that we've done. If you don't show up, you don't collect. If you squander all your money on lottery tickets, you lose. And I'll tell you right now, as foolish as it might be, I'll say this. I have a far better chance of spending all of my money on the lottery and winning than to have any third-party candidate for president win. It's just impossible. I mean, just as simple as that. And the idea that we could simply jump over that maze of major party politics just by sheer will is just magic thinking. It's like the siren song of the old Greek myths that draws men to their graves. It cost us the election of Al Gore as a man who had a lot of faults, but really has devoted his life to fighting for climate change. And if we fast forward to 2016, Jill Stein got enough votes in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin to turn the election over to Trump. And he made Bush look like Mother Teresa. I've never seen a president go full bore against the environment like this guy. I couldn't read off all of the things that he's done against the environment. It would take the whole meeting up. But let me reduce it to two words: climate and COVID. And here I'll be brutally frank. We lost our dear brother, Jack Lieberman, because people made that mistake in 2016. And there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. But let's not make the same mistake again. And he isn't alone. You speak about the deaths of COVID. It keeps rising and rising with no end in sight offered. And in terms of the climate, the estimates are that Trump's rollback of the Obama energy plan alone is projected to raise the temperature of the planet a whopping 7 degrees by 2100. I mean, there's no do-overs if Trump wins. No. And by the way, don't let anyone tell you it's not a serious problem, but don't let anyone tell you it's hopeless either. Our future's in our hands. That's why we're here tonight. And I might add something more. Don't sell Joe Biden short. Biden's plan dwarfs anything that was proposed by any nominated major party candidate for president ever. And he has promised to make that his first priority as president. And I might add that as large as it is, because we have fought hard to make it that way. And we're winning. Is it exponentially smaller than the more radical proposals out there? Yes, of course. But it's quite appropriate. We definitively do not have the radical Congress needed to pass such radical legislation. I mean, let's face it, if you had a President Howie Hawkins or whoever will face Congress, it's the same Congress that Biden will face. And unless there's a ton more of AOC-type politicians winning that are even running right now, then nothing will change. And in the absence of real power in both Congress and the streets, any other climate plan is really nothing but a virtue signal that will be definitively defeated before it reaches the president's desk. Now, contrary to urban myths, the Democratic Party has a real plan for the future and a record of accomplishment too long to list here. And the legacy that they are defending is what we fought for and what our forefathers fought for. And we inherited. It's our legacy. And make no mistake about it, the preservation of that legacy is not something abstract. It's a matter of life and death. So to those who are asking whether we could trust the Democrats to follow through, I could say that the only real question is whether we're ready to get out there and demand it after Election Day.
I would like to read a couple things from the chat. So first, I wanted to say hello to Linda Gonzalez, who is running for the State House. And I'd like to read you something she wrote. She wrote, let's face it, if we don't get rid of Trump, we're facing a theocratic state where the government is attempting to impose religious values on the rest of us. Many people came here to escape religious persecution, and we are headed back to that with a Supreme Court that will take away our rights, trying to impose religious values on the rest of us. So this is a very good point that I didn't see mentioned. And I wanted to make one more comment, and this is something we addressed in more of a vague sense, but not in a direct sense. Sorry, I lost it. From Sean Atkinson. I would imagine that a way to encourage leftists would be to show what kind of pressure we're willing to exert on Biden. So what kind of protests are planned after the inauguration? Or is that something nobody here is ever even willing to contemplate? And before I turn it back to you guys, I would like to say, we are on the streets every day, Sean. And we invite you to join us, and I know you've been out there, but I don't know if anybody has like a day one parade or a protest planned, but I can say that every single person in this room is a warrior. So I'd like to turn it back to Lorenzo.
The sense of the speakers and the people that were mentioned is that we are in a crossroad that if we don't take the right route, we might end up in a very sad state. And we cannot put ourselves in a situation of allowing to fight a battle that we shouldn't be fighting. We shouldn't be fighting a civil war in the United States because of the fact that we need to protect ourselves, because Trump and his people have made it very clear. They have made it very clear. They're out to destroy us. They're out to destroy us economically. They're out to destroy us ethnically speaking. They're out to destroy us in any possible way that they can in order to maintain white supremacy.
I just want to really uplift what you said in terms of like they're out to destroy us. Like, I think we need to be very intentional about these next 3 weeks of how we're talking to people, letting them know exactly what's at stake. There is a long history of people being suppressed, trying to erase a skill set of organizing, right? Trying to get rid of that so that no one can actively challenge these things. And if this president is given another term, I definitely see that manifesting within the next 4 years. Just really wanted to uplift what you said, Lorenzo, because like they are trying to get rid of that barrier or that any resistance.
Yeah, that there is no way in the world that I can see them winning the election in a fair manner. They have to steal ballots, they have to voter suppression, they have to do all kinds of stuff in order to prevent people from voting, because the reality is that we are, in my opinion, is absolutely 60% of the people in the country. And the reality of the deal is that we need to make sure that those votes are the ones that determine the future of the country.
Yeah, I just want to just piggyback on what Lorenzo said and reiterate for people that are maybe new and watching this, is again to stress that it is really critical right now to understand that it's okay if we don't have a winner declared immediately, that there are states in this nation that can take up to a month to certify results. And so here in Florida, we get really anxious and we think that if we don't have a winner call the first day, that there's a problem, and that isn't necessarily true. So we just want to make sure that we educate folks and make sure that they understand that it's perfectly normal, and that we would rather take time and make sure that the vote is counted correctly and every vote matters and every vote is counted, do it right, than rush through and miss votes. People are spending hours in line in Georgia and other places, and we're going to start to see this in South Florida. They're literally putting their lives on the line because, especially in Florida, the COVID positivity rate, DeSantis says one number, the reality is there's another number out there. So just to reiterate that it's perfectly okay if the vote takes a little bit longer, not to fear. Just wanted to put that out there.
I don't think it's our problem. I think that's the thing that Trump is broadcasting, that if I don't win on the first night, this is a made up, and that's the danger. It's not us. It's not us that's going to be impatient.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. But I'm just sharing the message that it is okay. And that don't believe that if you don't hear results, don't buy into Trump's narrative that it's over and done and what they call a red mirage, that, you know, all of a sudden a lot of folks came out and it may appear like he is winning on election night because the numbers come in, but understand that across the nation, it takes time, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's important to urge everybody to vote in person ahead of time if they can. If they don't feel threatened, if they do feel threatened, by all means vote by mail. But the sooner we can get this set up, the less time the Trump people have to organize and say that it's a fake election. I mean,
agreed. Well, especially here in Florida, because think about it. If we all dropped our vote by mail ballots today, they're counted within a week. We're done.
Right.
Florida would be done because we can track it online.
But they're still messing with the signatures and all that crap. So I'm going in person.
One of the things that we need to keep in mind is that Trump and his people, they don't believe in democracy.
Right.
They don't believe in democracy, again, for them to keep themselves in power. So we need to be very cognizant of that fact and act accordingly. This is a very big country. The United States is a very big country. And what we see here in South Florida is not at all a reflection of what the rest of the country is about. But the reality is that at this moment in America, all over the place, fighting is going on. What happened in Michigan and what's going to happen in Virginia, it was no joke. I mean, they're trying to kidnap governors.
Right.
You know, and this was done with the auspices of the Trump in the White House.
Yeah. And he would never denounce that.
Never denounced that.
Right.
Anybody that supports him, they can be the scum of the earth, and he doesn't care. He's not going to say that they're going to be okay with him.
I agree with everything that's been said, but I think we also need to be very strategic about our marches and our walking and our response, because I fear, as we know, what the white supremacists, what Trump wants is for there to be chaos after the election. And I think we need to be very strategic and very thoughtful and very intentional about what we are walking for because it will be hijacked. We know this already. It will be hijacked and it will work against everything that we want the elections to serve. We need to move forward. We need to regain the ground that we have lost these 4 years. And everything is going to be they're trying to create chaos with Biden so that Biden and Harris are not going to be able to function. We already know what they're going to try. They've got the arms. They're doing all this. They're going to try to sow so much confusion. So I think we need to keep. I think Nucleus was saying. I think we need to keep very strategic, very thoughtful, and just really focus on the prize, which is to move forward with the reforms we need to make with this government to undo, as Nancy was saying earlier, to undo what Trump has done. And I hate to keep going back to this Supreme Court, but we're seeing what is being said on that court. I mean, making things illegal that are our rights and that we thought we have fought hard and won already, and they're going to take us back. So, sorry, I'm repeating myself, but I'm just concerned that in our eagerness to make our voices heard, we may indeed undo what we need to happen with this election. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
I would like to add what Linda said before Ed speak. Basically, I believe strongly on what I sense that she said is the question that we need unity. Are we going to need unity not only in terms of defeating Trump on the ballot box, but we're going to need unity what happened after?
Yes.
Because if we start fighting among each other after the election, what's going to happen is that those people who are organized and who are well armed, who knows how to use those arms and want to use those arms because they spend a lot of money in those arms, we need to be able to maintain that unity. We will improve, but we need to be smart about it.
Biden and Harris need to be able to govern to make these changes. That needs to happen. Priority one. Repeal what's happened these last 4 years. We need to get that done fast.
I think in terms of American football all the time, defense and offense. First of all, I and all of you should be against any progressive that's not going to keep his promise at the beginning of the primaries that they would support the candidate of the majority. But look at the list. Look at the list of who's listening. All of those that I know that are progressive, super progressive, they're not on this meeting with us. They will vote against our candidate in some way or walk around telling everybody he's a corporate Democrat and eroding like termites, just destroying even our best people for it. That's number one. Second, I would say, and give me a 90% discount on this, that the ads are terrible. They're very effective against Biden about I'm going to raise your taxes. I think if we're going to be progressive, we have to say, hey, yes, taxes paid for. The food that's being given out by the Homeland Security, it pays for all the 501c3 groups, all the agencies. It pays for the Army and the defense. It pays for these super millionaires to protect their goods being shipped on and that's why we're going to tax them hard. The whole idea about socialism. We don't counter this whole thing. We haven't produced a form. Hey, all those in the audience that are against socialism and going to vote for Trump here, sign this paper that you want to be divested of your right at 65 years old, get Social Security, to get Medicare for your mother-in-law, to get for long-term care. Yeah, tell them that. Tell them that that's what you're against. Sometimes we're our own worst enemies. We talk to ourselves, but we don't go out and work on the people in the audience and tell them, hey, you got it all wrong. You can't accept the idea that our candidate, that she's a crook. All I'm saying is the ads are very successful in getting Trump people. That's why they're out there in those big crowds. See that what we have to defend against. I'll go back in my shell.
Thank you, Ed.
Oh, you're talking about big crowds. We just had a parade in Miami-Dade of 2,000 cars, in a caravan of 2,000 cars in support of Joe Biden. A lot of them were Cuban Americans, a group of people that everybody seem to believe they are for Trump. I'm a Cuban American, and definitely I'm not. One of the things that we know that they do is lie and lie constantly. When have you seen Donald Trump say the truth?
Thank you. Everybody was very compelling. And, if there's still people out there that, haven't made up their mind, or just go vote. You don't have to make up your mind today. We know that there's down ballot people we're going to vote for, and hopefully they're progressive. There's quite a few progressives on there, like Nancy and Linda. Just go vote. Vote your conscience. If your conscience tells you something different than what we've been saying tonight, that's your prerogative, but think about everything that we've said. And I want to thank the LCA for having this conversation, because we all talk amongst ourselves, like Ed said, but even if we didn't have the audience outside of our circle here tonight, we can take this video recorded and we'll be able to play it on all of our individual pages and share it with people outside of this audience today. So I think this is very, very important what you've done tonight. Thank you to the LCA and all of the co-hosts.
Well, thank you very much for you to doing such a fantastic job sharing this.
Oh, I'm honored, and I did not say thank you for having me, but thank you for having me.
Yes, no, that's tears to drink.
Mine's gone. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And if you have any questions, you can reach all of us on our Facebook pages. And hey, check out the Citizens Audit.